Our question is, does God cause us to feel guilty? But even if we've repented? It's a great question. And it's going to be a frustrating answer because, well, the answer to a degree is yes and no. But it's a two-part question. So let's take the first half first. Does God cause us to feel guilty? Well, yes, but for a good purpose. Even after we've repented? No. At least not in one particular way. Let's boil it all down to a relationship. Wouldn't you say that one of the keys in a relationship is to take seriously the words that are said by one person to another? Otherwise, how are you going to have a decent relationship? We've got to communicate. Here's a simple image that I want you to work with. You've got a nervous habit. I'm sitting in a chair with a big table leg in front of me, and you happen to have this habit that when you sit there like that, you tap your foot. Sometimes you kind of forget about that, and you keep tapping and tapping. Well, let's say that you're sitting down with someone with whom you're having a wonderful conversation, a great dinner, a great relationship. And after about 15 minutes, that other person leans over and says, "Stop that." Oh, you know that big silence that comes when you suddenly stop doing something you've been doing for 15 minutes? Oh. And then she leans over even more and says, "That was my knee." Ooh, gee. Bad enough to go knocking up against a table leg for 15 minutes. You've been knocking into her leg, her kneecap, for the last 15 minutes. Do you feel badly? Well, of course. What a terrible relationship if, after she says, "That was my knee," your response was, "I knew that." I don't think we really have a relationship then. She says, "That was my knee." Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I didn't know. Do you stop? Well, of course you stop. Feeling badly makes you change. Do you need to? Probably. It's just the way we are. When God directs us with the law, He points out what we've been doing. That's kicking the table leg, we think. But when He really points out to us the law, we find out that what we've been doing is not just kicking the table leg or kicking up against each other or even just harming ourselves. We've been kicking up against Him. Think about it. When Joseph was being seduced by Potiphar's wife, his response was, "How can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?" Isn't that interesting? He wasn't just, I would be sinning against you or myself or your husband. I would be sinning against God. When Paul was found to be persecuting the Christians and Jesus came in blinding light in Acts chapter 9, Jesus' words were, "Saul, why are you persecuting me?" Yes, certainly Paul was accusing, killing even, Christians. But in the bottom line, it was action directed against God Himself. Did both of these men feel that it would be terrible? Absolutely. And that feeling made for change. So does God cause us to feel guilty? Yeah, it has to. Relationships don't live by making somebody feel guilty. But when we need change, when you're knocking into somebody's kneecap for 15 minutes, it's time for guilt that leads to change. And as soon as that change comes, there's a huge, "I am so sorry." Wouldn't that be the first thing that you say? "Oh, my goodness, I didn't know. I'm so sorry. Oh, forgive me." Now, what do you expect, or hope at least, the person on the other side of the table is going to say? The person who's having a wonderful relationship with you. They're going to say, "Of course. I know. I forgive you." What do you do with those words? Believe them. Now, they seem a little unbelievable. I mean, they're said so nicely. She maybe is even smiling, even though her knees still got to be really hurting. She means it, though. She said, "I forgive you." Believe it. Now, I grant that you might ask her once, "Really?" And she says again, "Really? I forgive you." Smile. Drink it in and realize you're in one special relationship. Isn't that the same thing with God? When God has gotten our attention, has gotten us to realize, oh my goodness, we are doing, and we stop, we then ask for forgiveness, of course. And He says, "I forgive you." Believe it. Now, I grant that maybe we're so unbelievable that we're going to ask him, really? And he says again, believe it. He says it in all kinds of ways. He says it by what we read in the Scripture. He says it by reminding us that we were baptized and made his own. He says it by forgiving us in the Lord's Supper. But it all boils down to the same message. I forgive you. Believe it. If we still walk around then with deep guilt, we're not listening. We're not believing the words in the relationship. That guilt is the no. That guilt's the no, it's not supposed to be there. When we're forgiven, we're to go in peace. Isn't that a wonderful idea? Repeatedly throughout the Gospels, when Jesus meets those who need healing or forgiveness, his dismissal of them was, go in peace. Your faith has saved you. They're not supposed to go away feeling horrible, downcast, miserable, and frightened. Listen to him again. He said, go in peace. Your faith has saved you. Wow, what a change. So, it's a great question. Does God cause us to feel guilty? Well, yeah. When we need to, when we realize what we've been doing, and change is absolutely imperative, of course. And that guilt drives us to say, forgive me. And he does. But once that forgiveness is announced, are we supposed to keep on feeling guilty? No. Remember what he said. Go in peace. Your faith has saved you.